Okay, all right, we're live. Shabbat Shalom, everybody that's online with us, and Shabbat Shalom for everybody that's here, by the way. And I'll try to get all the words out clearly, as I had, after saying it 3 or 4 times when I got here, I kind of got jumbled. All right, so we've got Tammy's online, Al's online, Joe's online. Who else we got checking in here? Did I miss somebody? I think that's everybody that's checked in so far online. So, okay, let's pray. Can I get someone to volunteer to pray? I won't choose. I'll just ask somebody. Rick? Okay, thanks.
Father, we just thank you for the Shabbat. It mirrors who you are, and it mirrors when you were born, and the 8 days has so much significance. We just ask that you watch over us when we go. We just ask that you protect everybody coming and going, and we just ask that you make a way for Jonathan to get there very early this next week so he can enjoy it too. We just thank you for our family, our church family, and we ask that you watch over them. Try to find a way for people who didn't think they can come even for a day, that they find a way, and help us while we're up there to be tolerant of our brothers and our sisters. And we just ask that you download us while we're there, download what it's all about. I mean, we think we know a little bit, but show us some things, just like John's gone through. If you're game planning for a game and you're just thinking everything's going to go nice and easy, then you're showing us that things don't always go nice and easy. And you're preparing us for the time when we will leave on the greater exodus, that we will have been through the fire several times. You've taken us through there, and so when we do go, we'll be ready. In your name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Rick.
So your son's going to get to go?
We are praying. He is set right now as set for release.
Anytime?
So it can be anytime.
3 days ago.
Yeah.
Does he have a number that's going to be up on the earth to call? I mean, if they call you down there, nobody's going to get a
They'll have to leave
It's
a.
on the computer, isn't it? I think it's on the computer. They'll post the date. So she's been checking the computer, and she'll go daily, I'm guessing, and check it.
Yeah.
See if there's a new date.
And you've got
They
somebody.
don't call anybody. They don't let Jonathan know. They don't call anybody.
Well, when Corey got out,
Right?
they called us.
Oh, they did call.
They told us before they told Corey.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, because
I
what,
didn't realize they
and then
called.
they called because then they were coordinating to make sure someone could pick him up at the bus station.
I see.
And then they called and said, he's going to arrive this time, whatever. And then they said, we can't do it. So he's going to have to come spend the night in a halfway house on the way. And we're like, or y'all can pick him up in Lubbock. So Corey arrived at 1:00 in the morning in Lubbock, and we picked him up down there.
He's planning on you driving, right?
Yeah. Pick him up.
610 miles.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
now what happened? Is there any chance they'll come out and see that I guess the RV is going to the camp? If it's going to be at the camp and that's missing, will that be a problem?
So there's some logistics that go with that, and that he cannot go to camp until he gets permission. So he'll have to have the RV to stay in until he gets permission, because they'll check on him. So he's got to get down here, then he's got to go through the parole office and the city of Amarillo and do all the check-ins and stuff, and then get permission. Then we can take the RV up there. Now, I know that the plan has been take the RV up there, then when he comes back, bring the RV back, and then take the RV back up there. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So to do that, because I mean, we could take it up there on Sunday and then come back and have to bring it back on
Or Sunday
Monday.
night after we get back.
Well, we won't. It'd be Monday. So this is so it's gonna require that I'm gonna have to make a couple trips, and I'm gonna have to make a trip
We just don't
to
want
Houston
them to
if
lose.
Jonathan's released this week.
We don't want them to go check on it when it's not there.
Yeah. No. Well, and if he's got permission to go out of town, then he'll be able to. Let me see if I got it. If he has permission to go out of town, then they won't care if the RV's there or not. They're not going to check out. But yeah,
I wouldn't trust them.
it's like it's
Yeah,
your.
put it in writing.
You do. He'll need to get it in writing. But it's like one system into another system. There's still chains and shackles. And one's not free.
Well, we're not even free.
We're-
We haven't even gone through what he's gone through.
Yeah. And it's it's certainly an injustice
Yeah,
system. It's
he'll
not a
have to pay
justice
so
system.
much for being on probation. He has to pay him so much money.
Yeah. So it's not over. Until he completes the full extent of his parole.
And how long is that?
It'll be August
2.5 years.
of 24. August of 24, I think.
Quite 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One step at a time.
Yep. So he's certainly been on a mission trip, I'll tell you that. And has done good. Done good. All right, so this week's Torah portion is Ha'asinu. Right? Is it? Yep. And it's based off of Deuteronomy 32. I'm just going to put 32 because it's the whole chapter. And anybody know what it's called? It means to hear, right? Okay. But the Torah portion has kind of its own story. And what does anybody? The Song of Moses. So the Song of Moses, and so this was one of those downloads that Moses got right here at the very end as he's given his last presentations before, he's not allowed to enter into the promised land when he is going to be taken from this earth. And so it's very, very important. But he got a download, and in that download, then he taught it to all of Israel as a song. And in this song, it tells this story about Israel and Israel's fall and their return. So it's also called by something else. Does anybody know? It's called the Song of Something. Does anybody know? It's also called the Song of the Lamb. So a lot of times, in the book of Revelation, it says that the saints will sing the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb. And so we get the impression that it's two different songs, but it's actually one and the same. Because embedded in this Torah portion, it's all about the second coming of Yeshua, the Messiah. So, and to give you an idea before we go into it, it's over in Deuteronomy Chapter 32, verse 4 is the first hint of this. And if somebody has that opened up, do you want to read that for us?
He is the rock, his work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment, a God of truth and without iniquity. Just and right is he.
Okay, so in this verse here, there is an enlarged Zodi.
Now, which verse was that?
Don't talk to me.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so there's an enlarged Zodi, and does anybody know what the symbol or the letter Zodi means? Righteous. Yeah. So being enlarged is talking about the righteous man. So this is that key that is saying this is about Yeshua. Now, these first, I believe it's the first 6 verses, is the intro. So what does an intro tell you? If you're reading a paragraph, the first sentence of a paragraph basically tells you what the paragraph is about. Either the first or the last sentence, or maybe the sentence in the middle tells you what the whole paragraph is about. Or if you're reading a book, what does the first chapter of the book tell you? It's kind of setting you up for everything else. It's the introduction. So we see in these first 6 verses, it gives us this introduction. Who is it about? Well, he's talking about Israel. He's sharing a little bit about himself, but it's about the Messiah. And so with that said, and let's go ahead, and I would like for us to read it, but I'd like everybody to have an opportunity to read some verses on it today that would like to read. So would someone read, see, we got 52 verses. Someone read the first, let's go 10 verses at a time. Stop that. What is going on? Okay. Silly phone.
Scary when they talk back.
No, that's twice. Okay. Someone read first 10 verses. First 10 verses of chapter 32.
Give, O ear, O you heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as rain, my speech shall be still as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender earth. As the showers upon the grass, because I will publish the name of Yahuwah. Ascribe you greatness unto our Elohim. He is our rock. His work is perfect, and all his ways are judgment. Elohim of truth, without iniquity, just and right is he. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are perverse and crooked generation. Do you this, repay Yahuwah, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he your father that has brought you? Has he not made you and established you? Remember the days of old, and consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High divided the nations, their inheritance, and he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of all the people according to the number of the children of Yasharel. For Yahuwah's portion is his people, Yaakov is his lot of his inheritance. He found them in a desert land, and in the waste, howling wilderness. He led them about, he instructed them, he kept them as the apple of his eye.
Okay. Someone read the next 10 verses, 11 through 20.
Like an eagle that stirs up her nest, hovers over her young, spreads out her wings, takes them, and carries them as she flies. Adonai alone led his people. No alien God was with him. He made them ride on the heights of the earth. They ate the produce of the fields. He had them suck honey from rocks and olive oil from the crags. Herds from the cows and the milk from the sheep, with lamb fat. Rams from Bashan and goats with the finest wheat flour, and you drank sparkling wine from the blood of grapes. But Yeshurun grew fat and kicked. He abandoned God his maker. He scorned the rock his salvation. They aroused him to jealousy with alien gods, provoked him with abominations. They sacrificed demons, non-gods, gods that they never known, new gods that had come up lately, which your ancestors had not feared. You ignored the rock who fathered you. You forgot God who gave you birth. Adonai saw and was filled with scorn at his sons and daughters' provocation. He said, I will hide my face from them and see what will become of them. For they are a perverse generation, untrustworthy children. They arouse my jealousy with the non-gods and provoke me with their vanities. I will arouse their jealousy with the non-people and provoke them with the vile nation.
Okay. And who will take the next 10?
For fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap mischiefs upon them, I will spend mine arrows upon them. They shall be burned with hunger, and devoured with burning heat, and with bitter destruction. I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin, the suckling also with the man of gray hair. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this, and they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except that their rock consoled them, and the Lord had shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being our judges. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom, and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter.
Okay. Verse 33. Next 10. Anybody?
I will.
Okay.
I start with 33.
Yeah.
Their wine is snake poison, the cruel venom of vipers. Isn't this hidden with me, sealed in my storehouses? Vengeance and payback are mine, for the time when their foot slips, for the day of their calamity is coming soon. Their doom is rushing upon them. Yes, Yehovah will judge his people, taking pity on his servants, when he sees that their strength is gone, that no one is left, slave or free. Then he will ask, where are their gods, and the rock in whom they trusted? Who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let him get up and help you. Let him protect you. See now, yes, I am he, and there is no God beside me. I put to death and I make alive. I wound and I heal. No one saves anyone from my hand.
Go ahead and read 43.
For I lifted my hand to heaven and swear, as surely as I am alive forever, if I sharpen my flashing sword and set my hand to judgment, I will render vengeance to my foes, repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, my sword will devour flesh. The blood of the slain and the captives, flesh from the wild-haired heads of the enemy. Sing out, you nations, about his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants. He will render vengeance to his adversaries and make atonement for the land of his people.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
44. Let's just do 44 to the end. He'll take that last.
Then Moshe came with Hosea, son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song in hearing of the people. And when Moshe ended speaking all these words to all Israel, he said to them, "Set your heart on all the words which I have warned you today, so that you command your children to guard to do all the words of this Torah. For it is not a worthless word for you, because it is your life, and by this word you prolong your days on the soil which you pass over in the Yarden to possess." And Yahweh spoke to Moshe that same day, saying, "Go up this mountain of the Abarim Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, which is opposite Jericho, and look at the land of Canaan, which I give to the children of Israel as a possession. And die on the mountain which you ascend, and be gathered to your people, as Aaron your brother died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his people. Because you trespassed against me in the midst of the children of Israel, at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Sin, because you did not set me apart in the midst of the children of Israel. For you are to look at the land before you, but not enter there, into the land which I am giving to the children of Israel."
Okay. The Song of Moses. Did you notice how many times the rock showed up? And so that word rock, where it shows up, it's the word tsur. Yeah, so that's where we get the tzadeh. And that's basically how it's spelled phonetically from the Hebrew tsur. And so this portion right here is the tzadeh, and that is the righteous man, the righteous one. And so the rock shows up there, the rock. Now, when you read this, could you see where the time that we're living in right now? And that is exactly where we're looking. Did you see a Revelation chapter 6? Where you have the pestilence, the economic, and the war, and the wild beasts. It's all described right here. So sometimes when you look at when John had the revelation, John knew the scripture, he knew the Torah inside and out. So he has this revelation. He wasn't needing all sorts of interpretation, because he already knew the Song of Moses. Every Hebrew, every Israelite was to know this song. It wasn't just this generation that's entering into the land. Every Hebrew was supposed to know this song. Does anybody know the Song of Moses by heart? We're supposed to sing the Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb. And let alone in English there's a whole bunch of verses there. It's like 44 verses of the song or 43 verses. How about in Hebrew? So, yeah, it's challenging for us Westerners. And when we have everything at our fingertips and our phones talk back to us all the time, even when we don't want it to. So think about this song and what's in it. Because why? Why is it that it was commanded that they memorize this song? Of course, it's easier to learn it as a song as opposed to just a portion of a reading. So if we put it to music, it would be more helpful, wouldn't it? And yeah, and in this Torah portion as well, did you see any new commandments? No, it's exactly right. There are no new commandments. So there's allusions to things that he's talked about in the past. There's allusions to things that are going to happen to Israel in the future, but nothing is new. But it's very serious, because he says this song you're to learn. If we go back to chapter 31, where does it say that?
Therefore, write this song for yourselves and teach it to the people of Israel.
what?
Learn it by heart.
Yeah, what verse is that?
19.
19. There. Yeah, there it is. Now therefore, write this song for yourself. Yeah. So now, just a kind of little side note. How many versions say against in chapter 31:19? Mine says it in the New American Standard. King James says it. Some other versions. Okay, so that word against can also mean about. This is a witness about or among the people of Israel. And that can kind of change the understanding of that a little bit, or actually broaden the understanding as opposed to, did I hear the alarm? The door? No? Okay. Okay. So think about this. If there's a witness in a lawsuit or in a case, what does that do for the one who is accused?
It seals the deal, wouldn't it? It seals their fate.
Okay.
So that could be a witness for or against.
For or against.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this word has been presented. It's a word that he refers to both heaven and earth being a witness. And so why would heaven and earth testify in a particular way?
There has to be two
Witnesses, yeah.
Okay.
Has to be two witnesses.
Right. And then it also starts out here as it says, "Give ear, O heavens, and let me speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth." So now this is Moses. It's the end of his life. He's getting ready to go up on top of the mountain and die. So everybody knows that one's last words are the ones you really want to listen to, because it may give them the very last, most important things in their life, the deathbed confessions, right? Have you heard? In fact, I saw a video, probably a couple of weeks ago, and it was about a guy whose father was guarding these big hangars over in Clovis, New Mexico, and he had to sign one of those non-disclosures. Yes, he had to sign one of those, and he couldn't tell anything, or he would lose his pension. And if you serve in the military so long, you don't want to lose that pension. It can sometimes be pretty good. But on his deathbed, he told his son, and his son. But he told him, don't say anything because it could affect the pension as for his mother. So after his mother had passed away, this was in 2013, he says, I'm going to share with you because now I have cancer and I'm about to die. And I want to share with you what was disclosed. What was disclosed. Okay, so going back over here to do you want to hear the rest of the story? What's going on in Clovis, New Mexico? I got you on the hanger here. Okay, Clovis, New Mexico, an hour and 45 minutes southwest of Amarillo, they had two hangars that they joined together, and they said that there was a big construction. There's construction that was going on in Clovis, New Mexico, and this was back in the 1960s. And so it was not unheard of to have all sorts of bags of concrete all stacked up, because they're using it in the construction of the facilities there. And what was going on inside? Well, there was a particular director who is now dead. He was the director of the movie Eyes Wide Shut. I've not seen that movie, but it's quite a disclosure about the Illuminati and the things that go on in the background of the elite of the world. And Stanley Kubrick. Yep. He was the director. And inside, they took that concrete and they poured it all out. So it's all this fine dust.
Was it drugged?
and it became the stage of the first lunar landing.
So it's not real.
And they used an aluminum foil lander that, and they filmed it with the highest tech, because NASA had all of the highest tech, all the best cameras, much better than Hollywood ever had, all of the best film equipment that they could possibly get. And they put together the first lunar landing. And so it throws into the question, did the United States actually ever land on the moon? Anyway, this was the deathbed confession of the son of a man who guarded that facility, who had to sign the non-disclosure.
So the whole thing was a fake. I've heard that somewhere.
So a lot of times we hear in the background, this is a conspiracy theory. Well, until it's full disclosure and the government comes out and said, yeah, we never made it to the moon, we don't know. It leaves it to all these different stories that can be made up. I don't know this guy, and I don't know where he came from and what his background is or any of that. I can't verify that. I'm just saying that's what he said, deathbed confession. Clovis, New Mexico. Who would have thought?
Okay, I've got a deal that's kind of not down that same alley, but
Capricorn 1 is a movie about, right? That was back in the
was
80s, 70s. Yeah.
it was a guy telling about when Satan was kicked out of heaven and cast to earth, and he went into why Satan was not cast into the lake of fire then. Well, there was only one witness against him, that was heaven. And they said when Yeshua comes and his 1,000-year reign, they said he will be released for a short while, and then when he does the deeds that he does, then he will be judged and cast into the lake of fire forever, because there will be earth as one witness and heaven as another.
Mm-hmm.
And they will have the two witnesses that they need to.
And he's got to be cast to earth to get that second witness against him. Yeah. By the way, Bob popped in here. He says, he goes, I knew it. So,
Satan might be killed.
what was that?
Satan might be killed.
How is that?
He will bruise my heel, and I will bruise his head.
He'll certainly be hurting if anything.
Somebody get their head bruised, it might be fatal.
I bruised my head this morning on the cabinet you left open, so that's not good.
Rick, we're glad you're still around.
He might be killed.
We do know that he is cast in the lake of fire, and along with the false prophet and those that followed him. Yeah. So the Antichrist. Okay. That's another theory, another speculation there. But you know why conspiracy theories are conspiracy theories? Actually, it's because we learn something and there's so much hidden and it's not disclosed. So it lends the opportunity for people to start talking and saying things, and then they want that because it may be the very truth that they don't want us to hear. So they let the gossip mill start to go, so it loses credibility. I mean, think about that. Yeah. I was going to say a particular medication, two different particular medications during the prior 2 years that said, don't take it, it'll hurt you.
Right.
And which has been proven false. So, yeah, we got 2 strikes. I have to be very careful.
They do that.
Really, we're back to 2 strikes?
Oh, no, well, one won't fall off for 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, and so I think it falls off in October, November, and the second one will fall off in December. So, okay, so let's go on a little bit more here on this. And So part of this, the Song of Moses is about the prophetic events, but it's also so Israel will know when the prophetic events occur. They've been told, right? We saw in there verses around 23 through 25. We see the book of Revelation revealed. It's also chapter 6 of the book of Zechariah with the riding of the 4 horses, or the 4 chariots, as it said in the book of Zechariah. Both Revelation 6 and Zechariah chapter 6. And it says the song of, so here it is about a witness that precedes the deliverance of his land and his people. And did you notice something in the reading? Is that he has to let the people go as far as they can go before deliverance comes. In the book of Daniel, Daniel is told that from the time, that appointed time of the end, there's 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years. Why would it take? So this is, the time of Jacob's trouble, the time of the Great Tribulation. It's not 7 years. It's a maximum 3.5 years. There are those, Steve Mutrio talks about it only being 1 year because it'll be cut short, But why would it need that much time? Once the final clock ticks, why at least 3.5 years? If it's not the 12 months or 1 year. How, if Moses identified Israel as being hard-hearted and stiff-necked, do you not think the traits are still in Israel today?
In all of us today.
In all of us today. Does the Father know what it'll take to actually break us down? And I'm not saying that breaking us down is a bad thing, because he wants to deliver us and bring it, but he's got to get us to a certain point that, like Egypt, we have to be crying out. We have to cry out. And I'm saying, there's those that are out there that believe in the pre-trib rapture, and they think, well, we don't have to go through that. Do you know how stiff-necked and arrogant that is?
That's what I try to say to my sister. What makes the church think that, if Christ can get beaten to a pulp, hung on a cross, and then have to die, what makes us think that we're so much better than he is? That, we're just going to not have to go through
Or all
nothing.
those who were persecuted before us. I mean, none of the disciples got
Yes.
out without being persecuted.
No.
What makes us
That's
better than
just
them?
total
I
sheer
totally agree.
arrogance.
I totally agree. And you can't tell me that they're not looking at things thinking, well, maybe that's not true anymore, because things are getting tough.
Yeah.
I think
So
they're
how
in
can they still
denial.
believe
I
that?
think they're in denial. They don't want to, fear. They don't want to accept what we have to go through.
So Matthew 24 is pretty telling. And just as a side note, Matthew 24 verses.
Sorry.
Start with verse 19. What's that?
I said I'm sorry.
About what?
Getting kind of, passionate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm passionate too, it's okay.
Yeah. Daryl, you're going to say something as we're looking that up. Daryl, you were going to say something?
Yeah.
But you know what? You know where that passion comes from? Is because we don't want to see them harmed. When the great falling away, we talk about the great falling away. It's over in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Why? Why would there be a great falling away? Well, I think one of the key factors is if people are believing this pre-trib rapture and it doesn't happen, then they'll say that God's a liar. Well, God didn't lie. Okay, Daryl, and then Joy.
Israel today, and we are too. I mean, America are direct descendants of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. That's where it comes from. They were prideful. They were strict in what they believed, and it also got back to the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what we're seeing now.
Well, I mean, hold that thought for a second, because didn't we read over there in Deuteronomy chapter 32 that it says that they would receive this portion and they will prosper, and then it says then they'll forget God and they'll go after the gods of the land.
And he says that
Yeah.
more than once in the first 5 books, though. He says that more than once throughout here.
Yeah.
That we will forget him, lest you get fat and we forget who gave us our wealth.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's said more than once.
Yeah. Right.
And most rich people think they're going to live forever anyway.
Yeah.
But
So-
they want to. They try to make it to where they can, you know. No.
And I'll like to say this, because when you look at different ministries, do you realize that there's a myth that's been preached by different ministries that if you're doing what God's called you to do, then you're going to prosper in your ministry, and that you'll always have you'll have an abundance of finances and all that sort of stuff. After all, look at so-and-so and look at so-and-so and look at so-and-so. But you realize that the ministries that go month to month, week to week, they don't have the big congregations, the big buildings, the big TV shows, all this sort of stuff. Those are the ones that live by faith. They go through the trials of believing God every single week because they know what they've been called to do. And but what do those ministries have that have lots of money, lots of people?
They don't have to believe God anymore because they got it
They
all.
don't have to believe. What do? They just say, well, get your wallets out. Get your wallets out. And then how many people that go to those congregations, what's the depth of their faith? And so, and I can't say, I can't paint with a broad brush with that and say that's always true. But I'll tell you this, is that when we're a ministry and we believe God for this bill and for this bill and this bill, and oftentimes we go without buying stuff that we'd like to have, and upgrade some things and take care of some other things and plan a little bit, have a little bit on the side for some future. Guess what? If we have to believe Yah for those things, we have to stand, we have to let the need be known so everybody can join together in agreement to pray. And so these are the challenges. But you know what? I would love to have some rainy day funds in our church budget. I would love to be paid a salary. And I wouldn't have to be gallivanting all over the panhandle to make a living and all that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, what's it do? It keeps us humble. It keeps us seeking after the Father. It causes us to be prepared and have the strength to endure when economic failure, when sickness is there, and when we've got all of these different challenges that we have. So, of course, there's those that'll say, well, if you're going to confess that, then I don't have to give. You're just going to believe God for it. It's like, no, you're not understanding my point, because we're all in this together. We're all in this together.
Well, and then if you don't give, though, that takes away the blessing that he gives to you. I mean, he blesses you back. You can't outgive him.
Yeah.
So if people look at it that way, there's not much blessing in that.
I can't tell you how many times that the Father will have put some type of offering or gift or PayPal deposit or whatever that showed up right at the last. You don't know how many times they almost sold our stuff in storage. And then God came through and we were able to pay the bill in full. I mean, I'm telling you, that stuff's been in storage for almost 3 years. And now we got one storage unit left and the bus. But how the Father showed up and there was money. All of a sudden, we could take care of it. See, that's what he does. It's faith in action. And so we need to believe that he's always good. And that's part of what this Torah portion is about. He's talking about the goodness of Yah. And yet he intersperses it. It's God who kills and gives life. Wow. I mean, it's like, wait a minute. I was taught in the church that, God is this way. And yet we see this character of God that we need to fully embrace so that we can fully not only fear him, but fully love him. And okay, going back to Matthew 24, verse 19, but woe to those who, let's go. There it is. I hear it. Pray, verse 20, pray that your flight may not be in the winter or on Sabbath. Chapter 24, now verse 21. For then there will be a great tribulation, such as not occurred since the beginning of the world. And verse 29, but immediately after the tribulation of those days, okay, keep that in mind. It says the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. That's also a quote from the Old Testament. And the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the Son of Man will appear in the sky. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And verse 31 is the key for all those pre-trib rapture people. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the earth to the other. When is that? Verse 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days. So, and does it say that they're going to be caught up and they're taken up to heaven? No. What is this great gathering? Well, when we read about it in Jeremiah, we read about it in Isaiah, we read about it in Ezekiel, we read it about in all these different places. It's about the gathering, regathering of the people of Israel from the four corners of the earth to what? To be restored to the land. It means so we always talk about 2009, 2008, 2009, the end of the exile. That's officially, it was over. The revelation, the awakening of people coming into the Hebraic roots of their faith. It's like, whoa. Everybody's like, this is Shabbat, the feast days, these biblical days that, oh, well, what about Christmas? And what about Easter? What about Halloween? All of these different things. No. All of a sudden our eyes are open with like, oh, that's pagan. Those are the gods of the land that the Father warned us about here in the Song of Moses. And somehow we elevated them into some special days and observances and practices that they did in Canaan. And so we come to that revelation, we come to know that, and then we see that it's not about being gathered up to heaven or we're going to sit in the clouds. No, it's about this gathering where we're all restored to the land. And it's of my opinion that that we first go to Mount Sinai, where it was all started, where the Torah was given. And if you remember a few weeks back, I was talking about some of the discoveries that they found around Mount Sinai, how they have all these caves, these dwellings around that area. And so there's been this talk about how the people of Israel, specifically people in the land of Israel, will flee Israel and go to Petra, because we know that's a city carved out of rocks. But the city carved out of the rocks of the mountains is right there at Mount Sinai. So what better place that we meet with our bridegroom and we're sequestered away for a period of time. Those that are the bride, not everybody's the bride. Those that are not the bride, they might be believers. They might, have their salvation, but they will have to go and endure. So is there a counter to the pre-trib rapture? Well, I've talked about this many times. At the assembly of Philadelphia is the only assembly that we see do not go through persecution and tribulation. Somehow they are sequestered. They're protected. So I want to be, if there's a way, we're looking at it right, to be part of that fellowship, that assembly, and then I want to be part of that. Yes, ma'am.
The verse in Luke, it says to pray daily that we be able
to be found worthy and to stand before the Son of Man. And that's wedding language. To stand before the Son of Man.
That has to be the ones, like you said, that will be the bride.
Yeah. Yeah. So, whoever said prayer should be boring?
While you're bringing up prayer, the other night at our meeting, we had somebody, I don't know who it was, had gone someplace in Oklahoma, and they'd gone to their service that evening, and there were like 50 people that just kind of flooded in, unknown, and come to find out these people were seeking. They feel like something's happening. They're seeing what's going on around them, and that all of us should be praying for the clouds to be lifted off the eyes of the people we encounter, because the real believers are going to have an opportunity to have that partially at least removed, so that they can see that they're kind of making it their own as they go. Yeah. It's so easy to see how the doctrines of man have just really just muddied up the waters of understanding. We don't pray for their covering if there's no chance for them to be able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we need to pray like that.
Yeah. Yep. That's very good, Twyla. Very good. Deuteronomy 31:21. Says, then it shall be, when many evils and troubles have come upon them, that this song will testify against them as a witness, for it will not be forgotten in the mouths of their descendants. And then going on, looking at last week's Torah portion, where it says in verse 30, I think we've already alluded to it, 31:30, then Moses spoke in the hearing of the assembly of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. Give ear, O heaven, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. And then it goes on, verse 4, he is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice, and El of truth, El meaning a God of truth, and El of truth, and without injustice, righteous and upright is he. Now, notice that it says that it came from the mouth of Moses. So Moses' last words, very interesting. What were some of his first words? We can look at this journey of maturity that he's taken. If we go back to Exodus chapter 4. Exactly. Exodus chapter 4, starting with verse 10. Then Moses said to Yahweh, "Oh my Adonai, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." So Yahweh said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I, Yahweh? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. But he said, Oh, Adonai, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send. So the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Moses and said, Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well. And now you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will teach you what you shall say. Well, when you look at the Song of Moses, think about all of the poets and the songwriters of all the many different poems and music that's been written. How eloquent are those words? And here Moses has really come around, hasn't he?
I wonder at what point he went from not being able to speak and having to have Aaron speak for him to he got to this point where he could just say it himself.
Yeah. Well, so many different times, doesn't it seem that, Aaron is always by his side, but it's always referred to Moses said.
Right.
It wasn't Moses said through Aaron. It's almost like, well, Aaron showed up, Aaron was with him. After a couple of the Pharaoh events, it's really seemed like Moses was like, okay, I got this now.
Aaron was his crutch.
Yeah, and he was there, moral support, but there was the anointing. He didn't understand the anointing that causes him to be able to speak. Do you ever feel that way? Inadequate? Like, oh, I don't want to say anything. I don't know if I have anything of value to say. Well, you know why you have those thoughts? It's like, well, I don't know if I should say this because it probably doesn't mean much. Or, other people are saying better stuff than me. Why does the Spirit of the living God stir something in your heart in the midst of a midrash like this, a discussion? Because he wants everybody to be part. And so, because I might not say it, but somebody else might say it, and that's what that other person needed to hear. That's why I always say it's very, very important that we always gather together, because let's say someone's coming, they need to hear something, but the gift of those words is through the person that did not come. And so the person that came leaves empty. And I that's always been very sobering to me to think that, well, because this is how the body functions. Now, how many times that person needs to hear that word, and because the person that wasn't there didn't give it, so the Father just opens up the door and opens the mouth to somebody else. But it should have been that person that didn't show. I don't know. This could be. We never know. But I don't want the movie screen of my life to show how many times I missed it, because I know how many times I've missed it. How many times do we know that we should have said something and we didn't, and then we left in regret because it pierced our hearts because we know we grieved the Spirit. Yeah, Terry?
Several years ago, I heard this man giving a testimony that God had given him a picture in his mind of what he wanted him to build. And it was a big, like a cathedral. And he hawed around, and he wound up not doing it. He wouldn't go. And so several years after that, he'd forgotten about it, and he went to that city, and he went past that building, and he stopped and said, wow, I was supposed to build that, and I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you ever been in a setting, Bible study, service, whatever it might be, and you know that you're supposed to have said something, and you know that fear, anxiety, worry, whatever, and then then someone else says it. It's like, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was thinking. But someone else said it. What did the Father just teach you?
Speak up.
that you're not missing him. You're hearing, and you've got good hearing. We just got to do, but we're like Moses. We don't think it's of value. And the regret, what is that telling us? It just means that we were hearing, we missed an opportunity, so that next time around, we're going to be aware that that still small voice was actually the Father saying, speak this. That's how the gifts of the Holy Spirit work. And we learn from those, and we learn from those mistakes. And the Father's not going to beat us up for it. It's like, okay, come on around. We're going to try it again. It's like when my mom taught me to tie my shoes. She was like, she was done with me. Like, Mom, my shoe's untied. Come here. We're going to get this done, and you're going to do it. And after crying through the process, I finally, 10 times later, it's not working. It's like, no, you're going to do it again. But she kept encouraging me. She wasn't beating me up, but she was like, just do it. And I tied my shoes. And she never had to tie my shoe again from age of 4 on.
Wow.
So I just had to learn to tie them better and double knot them sometimes or whatever. Okay, Twilight, you were going to say something.
Years ago, I was visiting with a friend, and we spiritually were close to what we believed. And the Father kept telling me while I was sitting there that I needed to pray for her. And we had discussed the situation, and it just didn't seem right. It didn't sound, she had other things to say, and time was getting short. There was 50 excuses there. And so I got up and left, and I drove her in the car, and he says, how many times are you going to drive around the block? Are you going to go back and do what I told you to do? So I went around the block, parked in front, went to the door, and I had to tell her, God had given me a word, and I was to pray with you. And I left, because I just didn't want to do it.
Mm.
And it made it a lot easier, because it's never fun the second time.
Yeah.
It's just when you disobey your parents, it's not near as fun as you thought it was going to be.
Oh, you stiff-necked one.
It's very humbling.
It is.
It is.
But it breaks the stiff neck, doesn't it? It softens it
Well,
up.
he says he'll humble you, but you
Yeah.
don't humble yourself, so.
Yeah.
We need to get into the humbling.
Yeah. That's good. Yep. Joe online, she says, training strengthens. Now that was earlier, but this is exactly what this is. It's all about training. Well, here's some other things. Did I miss anybody? I don't want to miss anybody. Daryl? Yeah.
There is a possibility when you don't speak up and something's just, not just a passing thought, something's eating on you to speak up, you might be quenching the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because that's what it is, if anything, quenching the Holy Spirit in our own life. And also, but you think about this, what about that opportunity? And I've seen this because of someone's obedience during a time of ministry, during a service, or one of our worship services, and that one act of obedience, when that person heard the Spirit of God, broke something loose, and the whole tone of the service changed. Like an atmosphere changed. Have you ever been? Those are just amazing times. And why does that not happen every time? Well, I think it's partly because the Father wants to keep us hungry. But we should always come with great expectation that and some people are like, well, it's not happening here, or it's not as lively here, or whatever. But there's something that the Father does when he calls us, and we join together, that we sit with great expectation, and he loves that. Just like that one day, I was just thinking recently, just a few weeks back, Andy had that issue going on with his shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, he received that healing. He felt the fire in this tissue of his shoulder area. The rest of us didn't, but it broke something it did something for Andy. And like what happened to Rick. Rick still, this testimony about his elbow. And then the things that happened with his sister-in-law. Yeah, just amazing testimonies. It propels us to say, okay, do it again. Father, we like this. It's kind of fun. Let's do it again.
Oh, Andy, he shuddered. When we had our hands on him and we were praying there, his whole body, he just like shuddered like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked, you could tell looking out, I thought he just got healed.
Yeah. Yep.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch God work.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking too, we're talking about listening to the Holy Spirit and hearing and being obedient to when the Holy Spirit tells us to speak up, but I've also experienced the opposite of speaking when I shouldn't have. And that is equally as powerful.
Well, that's true. Mm-hmm. I do that a lot.
Probably more painful too.
I've chewed off my toenails too many times. Open mouth, insert foot.
Yeah, I think we all have. I know I have.
But I remember there was a time when we were meeting over at the other building over there on Western. Get my directions around. And we were praying for somebody. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was a back issue. I don't even remember who it was and what it was about. But the Father healed that person just right then and there. It's like, whoa, something's going on here. Anybody else need healing? And the next person came up, they were healed. The next person came up, they were healed. The next person came up, they were healed. I mean, we had like about 6 different people. One person had a broken finger and took the splint off and said, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, so it just takes one act of belief, of faith, saying, okay, Father, of compassion. Sometimes we just need to have some compassion and say, Father, this person needs to be touched. And that's so every situation is different, and we can't put God in a box, because we can't go back the next week and say, okay, we need everybody that needs to be healed come up here, and then it's like no one's healed. Well, what happened? Well, because we're trying to generate off of last week's manna, and it's spoiled. We got to see what the Spirit's doing this week and keep it fresh, right? Okay, is that everybody? Let's go on. Let's look at this here. What about some other times about talking about putting words in our mouth? Deuteronomy 18:18. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brethren, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. Who's that speaking of? Raising up a prophet like you, Moses. Yeshua. Yeah. John 14:10. Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does the works. So Psalms 19:14 talks about where these words come from. Let the words of my mouth, this is Psalm 19:14 if you're taking notes. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Yahweh, my strength and my redeemer. That actually kind of tells us about what happens in our prayer closet, where we actually surrender our own words so that his words fill our mouth. Makes sense why we need a prayer closet, right? We need that time. Yeah. Yeah. Job 32:12. I'm sorry, Job 23:12. I got a little dyslexic there. Okay, I'll get it out. Job 23:12. I have not departed from the commandment of my lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. And Jeremiah 23:16, thus says Yahweh of hosts, do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They make you worthless. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of Yahweh. Of course, Jeremiah was a prophet. And what prophets was he speaking of? All the false prophets that were saying, oh, Jerusalem, no harm shall come to you. And right before they were invaded by Nebuchadnezzar, or Nebuchadnezzar's armies. Like America. I mean, how many times? Oh, that's a really good point. Oh, America, the empire, military empire of America can never be defeated. Yeah. Talk to Babylon about that. They were destroyed they were destroyed overnight. Complete regime change overnight during the time of Daniel. Okay. So Moses was told to put this song in the mouths of the children of Israel, talking about mouths again. 31:19. Now therefore write down, so this is last week's Torah portion. Now therefore write down this song for yourselves and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths. This is what Luann brought up earlier. That this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. So who else was to put these words into their mouths? Besides Moses.
Foreigners or whoever joined Israel?
So I would say, yeah. These children are supposed to hand these words down to their children. 32:44, Moses came with Hoshea, that's Joshua, the son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song in the ears of the people. So Joshua, I guess, learned it first. And you think about a big crowd of people without a megaphone, without electronic, not without some type of broadcast system. And you'd almost have to send out criers to the four corners of the crowd to repeat those words. All right, so going back to the beginning of this Torah portion, Deuteronomy 32:1. Give ear, O heaven, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teachings drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, as raindrops on the tender herb, and as showers on the grass. What do you think it means? It's talking about, why is the word like a dew and like showers?
Because he's sweet and gentle.
Really refreshing.
Yeah. On hard ground, we know about hard ground out here in the panhandle of Texas, and it hadn't rained in a while. What's the best rain for our land? It's that gentle rain, the soaking rain, the gentle rain, the mist that sits there and it softens up that topsoil. And why? Because the parable of the heart, the parable of the soil is about the seed that's being scattered. And what causes the seed? What's the best soil for the seed? Yeah, the not rocky, not on the path, and there's no weeds. It's the soil that's been worked. It just allows the water to just soak in, right? And so it's the best place for the seed. Let's see. The witness thing. Moses, after teaching this song in Deuteronomy 32:46, he declares himself as a witness. And he said to them, Set your hearts on all the words which I testify among you today, which you shall command your children to be careful to observe all the words of this Torah, or these instructions. And because Torah means instructions. Who else is a witness that we see within the word? Who is the true witness, the true and faithful witness? Yeshua. Revelations 3:14. And the angel of the assembly of the Laodiceans write, these things say the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of Elohim. Elohim meaning God. So Yeshua is a witness. And so we've talked a little bit about this, but let's go back and reemphasize this. Rick brought this up about Hasatan only has one witness against him. Why do we need 2 or 3 witnesses?
It's a commandment.
It's a commandment.
You can't not one witnesses in enough that three of these established.
So when Yeshua was facing trial and they were bringing all these different people before them, they couldn't convict him at first, could they? Because no one's testimony was the same. They couldn't bring, everybody had these different things. It was not, no one could corroborate it, right? And it certainly wouldn't want any collaboration, behind the scenes saying, okay, you say this, and I say this. But they did. They collaborated against Yeshua. Okay, Deuteronomy 19:15. One witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. So it must have plural. It's amazing what our judicial process is doing today. Is now we have judicial decisions going on without any witnesses.
That should be illegal.
Yeah,
It is.
that's
It is.
and
They don't care.
But they don't enforce it.
yeah. So we see that, we saw that in Jonathan's case.
They will vindicate it.
We've seen that with so anybody, I don't know if anybody's been watching these Alex Jones trials or keeping up with any of those. This Alex Jones. So he is like enemy number one against the deep state. Let me just put it that way. Okay. So he has free speech systems and InfoWars. 2 cases, actually 3 cases. The third case is in Texas. It'll be going to trial here next month. Judge in Austin, also the judge in Connecticut, they defaulted him without allowing him to present his case in court. He could not even testify on his own behalf.
So is he a good guy or a bad guy?
He's a good guy.
Good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So in Connecticut, what happened is that he was supposed to testify. It was his turn to be on the witness stand. And the judge said, you cannot say you're innocent. You cannot say this, that, and the other. Otherwise, I'm going to hold you in contempt. But if he didn't say those things, then he would be perjuring himself and he could be thrown in jail. So he came out and said, I'm not going to testify, because if I testify the truth, she's going to throw me in jail for telling the truth. And if I don't tell the truth, then they're going to get me for perjury and throw me in jail. So he said, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. And so he did not testify. So here's the problem is that when a court decides that you can't say anything, because that wasn't a trial, by the way, for whether he was guilty or innocent. They already decided he was guilty before he could have the trial. So this was a trial on the amount of money that he should have to pay. So he didn't even get his chance. They said he did not present all of the documentation they asked for, and yet all of his attorneys said, look, they've gone through all of his records, all of his emails, every single file they have. They gave everything that they had asked for, but the prosecuting attorneys, shall we say, or the plaintiff attorneys actually said, oh, you didn't give us what we wanted, so therefore you didn't give us everything. But what they wanted didn't exist. But the evidence they put on the trial was all the information that he had already given them. So there you go. This is the problem when the judicial system breaks down, and so they defaulted him.
Or it's corrupt.
They defaulted him because they wanted to get him arrested and thrown in jail, because that would be a trophy prize for them. He's got one more trial to go through. That same thing happened in Texas, down in Austin. And so however you feel about Alex Jones, there's still justice that everybody should be treated equally under the law.
Guilty, proven guilty.
Innocent until proven
Right,
guilty.
but he's proven guilty.
Yeah.
They're Proven innocent.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
So
It was no different with Yeshua. I mean, legitimately,
Right.
there was no fair trial. to be
Right.
had.
exactly.
They already said he's guilty. Now we just gotta kind of put a show on
Mhm.
until enough people say yes, and then in the mass confusion and chaos and the bloodlust, let's face it. Now we may execute him without having any kind of consequences coming back to us. Well, in the case of Yeshua, the temple got split and some other things have come
And
about.
Caiaphas
And they were like,
secured
oh,
his-
no.
Yeah. See, so like Yeshua was, many people didn't quite completely believe, but after they saw everything, he was completely vindicated.
I would say, oh, well,
And-
keep him alive amongst me standing in the crowd, so now we're gonna throw me up there with him too.
Mhm. Yeah, they don't want that threat. So yeah, you know who your real friends are, and but you have to go through the entire process. But see, that case, guess what? Steve Bannon is under the same thing. Steve Bannon was raised money for the wall. They took 10% to help cover their administrative costs. The feds went after him, charged him. President Trump just said, you're going to be pardoned. You're pardoned. Now they're taking it to Washington, D.C. and trying him again, which is
also illegal.
which is double jeopardy. It's double jeopardy. So it's not under the federal courts this time, but it's under the district courts. And see, this is the injustice. And they've already said, well, you're guilty. And so these high profile cases, you pay very, very close attention to them.
It's hard because when you read that stuff, it's so infuriating, and I always have to come back to what Yahweh says in His Word is that vengeance is mine. Thus I will repay. But boy, when you're reading about these kinds of injustices, and this is happening more and more and more at levels for people, everyday people like you and me, who are standing up for what they believe is right, and then they become a scapegoat and their lives are obliterated.
Mm-hmm.
Or like January 6th, people
Right.
were in prison.
Yeah, they're not giving their day in court. Yeah.
They're stuck and all kinds of horrible things happening, and there's nobody
Mm-hmm.
that's fighting for them.
They actually
getting anywhere with
they wrote an open letter to say that requesting that they be transferred to Gitmo because of the treatment in that DC jail. They wake up every morning with cockroaches all over them. There's overflowing toilets and feces on the floors. It's just, and one guy was so beaten up by the guards, he lost his sight in one eye. And this is the justice system today. And so, yeah, so we need, Bo Yeshua Bo. That's all I can say. Come, Yeshua, come.
And a lot of times they'll disguise under the guise of, well, compared to other countries, look at how we handle this with talks. And gatherings versus automatic execution, automatic life in prison, automatically, and they disguise it, but basically we're leading up to that.
Yeah. These are the show trials of the former Soviet Union, where it's, well, they have a trial to make it seem like to the world that there's justice, but you think this is America today?
This is the foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we think if they'll do it to them, they'll do it to us. And so, yeah, so the Song of Moses applies to us for the very, very same reasons. Now, everybody will end up, this is why we must not love our lives unto death.
That's my prayer for everybody.
Because a lot of times we fear death more than we fear Yah. And we got to get that reversed. And we got to say, like, well, it's good. This transition just goes out much faster, and the Father helped me with the pain. Or most of us like, I don't fear death. I just don't like the pain idea.
Don't fear what man can do to you, fear what I can do.
I'm the author and finisher of all things.
Yeah.
In your soul, your body, and soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, hold on. Stop there. Stop that thought, Twyla. Joe said there was that man up in Michigan. He was a pro-life man in Michigan, and some guy he would every Wednesday go down and preach in front of abortion clinic for 2 hours. And one guy got into his face. I mean, like really invaded him, and he kind of pushed him off. And he got an FBI raid because of that. And yeah, Twyla.
Well, this stuff is really prevalent now. But a few years ago, when I had to go through the judgment that I had favored. Anyway, it was a accusation of not taking proper care of minorities.
Yeah.
And of course, it was all trumped up. It was a lie. But during that time, when you begin to feel these things that people have said something, done something to you, anything that you comes across. I was sitting at my desk one day, and out of the clear blue, God says, empty that desk. And I did, and it was just a couple of days before they came in and locked me out of my office. So this kind of stuff's been going on everywhere forever. It's just that it's getting more prevalent. And who are they picking on right now?
Yeah. That happened. Yeah, 2 days before HR met me at my office here in town when I was working for that insurance company. The Father told me to clear my desk out, and so
I don't know how many times I have said, not that it would have changed, because ultimately they said they couldn't find one drop of any kind of prejudice or anything. But it would have been a lot worse had they had my personal possessions.
Oh yeah.
So, and it was almost like I was in a trance. I'm working on this loan, I'm doing this stuff, go get your stuff. And I did it, and it was so thankful. So we need to tune ourselves in. You jaywalk, and somebody comes after you, that's an offense.
Yeah. So everybody knows that. If you didn't know this story, my boss went after me when he found out that I was pastoring a church and working as the manager of that office, and it wasn't. It was I don't know. It was about a month or two before that. I went to a training in Phoenix on speeches, how to do speeches or whatever. It's all part of the manager training process. And they said you can get up and give a speech on something that you're passionate about. Some people are talking about rock climbing and mountain biking or whatever. I'm like, I like all that stuff, and but what am I really passionate about? I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to have to talk about what I'm passionate about. And so I talked about my relationship with the Lord, and I had to carry that theme throughout all the training. So even to the point of a PowerPoint and everything, and it was recorded, and then my boss had to review it as well, because it was all part of the training process, so that they can continue to develop me and all that sort of. So my boss, a Catholic, got to hear the gospel. And then he started targeting my diagnostic reviews and finding nitpicking, and then using that as stuff, in spite of everything else, all the other stuff. If you want to find something, get rid of something, they're going to do it, and that's what they did. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I just got a question. Yesterday I flipped through channels and I saw this brief little thing. There's this young black guy, and I think it might have been his wife. They're wearing these black shirts with white lettering that says "White Lives Matter."
Mhm.
Has anybody heard anything
Yeah.
about that? He said something about he may run for president.
Candace Owens and Kanye West.
Oh, is that Kanye West?
Yeah, yeah. They did a podcast together, and then they came to, and then they were promoting White Lives Matter.
He said something about the news media is like censoring and not allowing you to say anything about God. And it was just really brief, and I thought
He became a believer a while ago.
Yeah.
When he was still with, I thought he was still with Kim Kardashian, but I guess not.
I just
No.
wondered if anybody.
She won't allow him to have anything to do with the upbringing of the kid. She doesn't want them exposed to his first line of thinking.
Which is God.
Yeah. Yeah, God got a hold of his life, and dramatic, just complete change. So,
He's on fire, isn't he?
Yeah. Yep, and he's holding to it. Yep. Okay, how are we doing on time? We're pushing the time. Okay.
Oh, sure, you could make his own shirt.
Yeah, you should do that.
So, what's our first feeling about our relationship with the Father when we find ourselves in the middle of a harsh condition?
It depends on where your heart is with it already.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, that's
It's based on an individual level, but technically, if I have already been working on accepting things as they are and praying into it and finding the ability to rejoice in it, then I'm possibly going to handle that situation as it talks about the saints first, facing the death and persecution and so on and so forth with joy, with rejoicing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I want to be. If that's not where I want to be and I'm still living in fear, then there's some things I got to work out with, which means I have a gospel.
good point. Good point. Does anybody ever find themselves in those harsh conditions, doubting Yahweh's abilities to provide in the middle of all that?
It may not feel like that at the time, because for me, I'm caught up in whatever it is I'm going through and all the emotions and feelings that I have wrapped up into that, which of course gets into problems in the first place. But in the end, if I'm not able to accept it, or even like Michael's talking about, rejoice in that trial, then basically I'm saying I don't have faith in what he's capable of doing, and I don't trust him.
Okay.
That's something I find I have to continually work on.
I will say this, knowing that it's going to be hard, knowing that it could be just as not only mentally and spiritually painful, that this possibly could be physically painful. It's kind of once you can get past that point of, oh, this is going to hurt on all levels, not just a little bit, but on all levels. Father, now that I've recognized this, thank you for revealing this to me. Oh, let me hear the faintest whispers of your heart. Because if I can't even hear that, even in the moments of quietness in a 6x6 or with my, and so on and so forth, like, I'm going to struggle. And I'm going to walk away. I'm going to do whatever the world wants to all of a sudden to get me out. Instead of pressing in and pressing all the way through. Because we will be risen again with him. Now, I'm going to say that's a little, some people say that's not fair for when I say that, but I have 2 death certificates. So I kind of know what it's like to die. But at the same time, it truly is, death wears your sting in the blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden come back, it's like, oh, that was worth it. That was worth being on my deathbed because I got to encounter him in such a way that now I have a little bit better understanding of what it talks about for the later on saints in those days where they're going to rejoice in that because there's going to be a supernatural joy. It talks about it in John. I'm going to give you a supernatural joy, but you got to press into it. You got to want it. Yeah, it's going to be scary. Yeah, there's going to be some consequences. But who am I to you? God is either all or nothing at that point. And when you're desperate enough, and where your heart's been prior to that is going to determine where you're going with that direction I'm talking about.
I think that's the key. And you were talking about that earlier. When we're desperate enough, when he has allowed us to hit below rock bottom and we cry out.
Mm-hmm. It's really, I think there's a time, and if we're human, I think most of us here are human, but enough that we actually think that when the situation, the circumstances are just so big and so hard that we almost feel like that either God's not there, he's not available, or he's not weak, or he's weak and he's unable to touch it, the circumstances.
Circumstances change, but he's done.
It's right. It's exactly right. And this is part of what the Song of Moses is also telling us about, is that in Deuteronomy 32:20, where it says, and he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end will be, for they are a perverse generation, children in whom is no faith. And yet, he already said in Deuteronomy 31:6, be strong and of good courage. Do not fear, nor be afraid of them, for Yahweh your Elohim, he is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. And Yeshua said in Matthew 28:20, teaching them to observe all things that I commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Well, if we are at the end of the age, he's with us. Right on the verge where, you've heard me say it, regional wars can become global wars very quickly in a modern age like this. And with all the events that have transpired over the last week and the recent bombing of the bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, the provocations continue to be, those buttons continue to be pushed. At what point in time that we see Russia saying, look, Ukraine, we're going to deal with you, but NATO, who's supplying you Ukraine, we're going to deal with you too. And that's the biggest fear, and that's the biggest concerns that we have right now.
You think that was American HIMARS that did that?
No, it was a truck bomb.
No.
It was a truck bomb. And it was a truck that started on mainland Russia, where they don't have the X-ray machines coming across the bridge from that direction. And so all the papers were in order, so they let him go across. And it was a suicide bomber, and his origin was Syria. That's what they've discovered so far. Yes, sir.
On Sky News, there was they had an expert, and he said it wasn't a truck bomb, because the bomb would have blown up. It blew under the bridge. So he said it probably might have been special forces or something else. But it didn't blow up like a truck bomb.
Well, so that I gave you the version. Of course, here it goes into conspiracies, but the version that they've released so far.
If the bridge is destroyed, who cares?
So
The end result's the same, right?
yeah, yeah. So, but Zelensky did come up and say, yeah, we take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
So that, again, poking the bear. I mean, the bear is awake, and it's just. It's actually, and we look at it from a current event point of view. What I'm looking at it as, this is the Gog Magog scenario.
Yeah.
Yes, because NATO is the representation of Israel in Ezekiel 38 and 39, and Russia and all of their allies are the ones that have had the hook in the jaw that's pulled them in, where they didn't want to have this, but they've been pulled in. So we're seeing that, and guess what? It's during Sukkot that we read Ezekiel 38 and 39, of all different things. It is very interesting.
So you think we're on the brink of seeing that war?
Yeah. All the talk about the government has stockpiled potassium iodide and another type of drug for radiation sickness. Our government has, but so has, it's not for us.
$300 billion worth of doses of that.
Yeah. Well, the recent thing was not the potassium iodide. It was another drug, because radiation, when it gets into the blood, it causes the blood to do something. I don't know if it's clot, thicken, destroys the blood cells, and so it reverses that. It's the cost per tablet is like anywhere from $1,200 to $2,300 a piece, and that's what the government just bought.
Big pharma for you.
Yeah.
How about iodine?
Potassium iodide. So potassium iodide, what it does is that it goes in and it protects the thyroid. And women have a 90% chance of surviving radiation, nuclear radiation, or thyroid issues from radiation. Men have like 10% chance. So it's very important that if you don't have an iodine supplement, to get it, because if your thyroid is full of iodine, then it won't absorb, because it mimics iodine, which your body needs. It's a natural thing your body needs. So I would recommend everybody get some nascent iodine. It's the most pure form of iodine that you can get, and take it daily.
And where do you get
Um,
that? Any of the natural food stores?
I don't. Well, I do know that there is one type that you can get over at
West Texas Pharmacy.
Drug Emporium. I don't.
West Texas Pharmacy has Ludols. That's what I have is Ludols.
Noodles. Okay.
I don't know what the difference is between that one that you said.
Yeah. If the InfoWars store has the purest form of nascent iodine, they get it from deep earth crystals through the petroleum extraction process. It's at the InfoWars store. Nascent. All right. Nascent.
Oh, nascent.
Iodine. Your body needs it. Your body has to have iodine. If you don't have iodine, you'll die, because your body will lose its immune system.
But you get it from salt, right? Iodine?
No, they used to add salt. They used to add it to salt. They don't do it anymore, but they used to. And they because they were seeing IQs drop, and it was related to iodine. And so they added it to salt, and they saw the IQs. increase in America as a result of doing it, but they stopped doing it somewhere around Clinton.
So the salt that you buy that says iodine is
No, you can still buy it, but they don't do it in all the salt now. So you have to read your labels. But I would say you don't get enough from that. You'll get a little bit, but I would recommend taking this supplement. So it's not a commercial for the InfoWars store, but I know you can get it there, and you get your best prices there, and it's highest quality.
Liquid iodine, I've been told if your body is needing that iodine, you can put it on, and the next day it'll be gone. It'll be disappeared. And if you put it on and it stays, next day you see it, you know your body's got enough.
I think you can get it. There's another site, 50off.com or something like that. You can get it. But that's the best prices. I think Dr. Group also has it, gets it from the same source as the InfoWars store does, but it's like twice the price. InfoWarsStore.com.
Now, I know this is, you had mentioned this before, and I forgot. Oil of oregano, what was that for?
It's anti-parasitic, antiviral, antibacterial, and
Yeah, kind of like how.
yeah. But when you take it, it'll kill all the good bacteria as well.
Yeah.
So you have to chase it a couple hours later with probiotics. Otherwise, when you eat, your gut will start to hurt because you don't have all the good bacteria in there.
And that was what?
Oil of oregano. We are out of time, y'all. There's so much more on this. And let's hit something real quick. Just kind of wrap it up because we did start just a little bit behind. Deuteronomy 31:6, be strong and courageous. I read that. And then also Matthew 28:2. When Yahweh hides his face, it'll be a time of discipline for the children of Israel because of their misplaced priorities. We saw that. The northern kingdom, they weren't protected from the enemies. And, they thought they were pretty mighty. But when they turned their back on God, they found out what strength they actually had. And I think we can say that for ourselves, because look at the 4 horses, the 4 chariots of Zechariah, the 4 horses of Revelation. It's boom, 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 boom. It's 4 different things that if you would have asked us 20 years ago, before 9/11, strong economy, great health system, strong military, you name it. We had it all. I think the reality of the condition of this country is soaked into a lot of people. Some people still don't catch that reality. Some people are still ignorant about it, and we need to pray for them. But, when we look at it, we understand where we're at because it's the same warning for us. And then we also keep in mind that Deuteronomy 32:35, vengeance is mine and recompense. Their foot shall slip in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things to come hasten upon them. For Yahweh will judge his people and have compassion on his servants. Then he says that their power is gone, and there is no one remaining, bond or free. So we see that happening. But out of this, we see a picture of the overcomers. And I wanted to get to this because this is why we sing the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb. And that's in Revelation 15:1. Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels with the 7 last plagues, for in them the wrath of Elohim is complete. And I saw something like a sea of glass mingled with fire. And those who have the victory over the beast, over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, having harps of Yah. They sing the song of Moses, the servant of Elohim, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are your works, Adonai Elohim Almighty. Just and true are your ways, O King of the saints. Who shall not fear you, O Adonai, and glorify your name? For you alone are holy. For all nations shall come and worship before you, for your judgments have been manifested. And then talking about, well, how does judgment come? 1 Peter 4:17 says, For the time has come for judgment to begin at the house of Adonai. And if it begins with us first, what will be the end of those who do not obey the gospel of Yah? Now, if the righteous one is scarcely saved, where will the ungodly and the sinner appear? Therefore, let those who suffer according to the will of Elohim commit their souls to him in doing good as to a faithful creator. It actually goes right along with people that say, they unknowingly, they repeat what Peter has said, that, or Paul, maybe it was Paul that said, where is your God? Basically mocking believers who have been talking about warning, making sure people's lives are right, and they mock believers because, like, where's the sign of his coming? We don't see it. It's not happening. Why are you believing the way you're believing? And so it makes me think, but doesn't make me stop believing any less, right?
Another reason why yesterday's manna is not enough to continue your faith.
Yeah.
No matter what persecutions, no matter what mental or emotional or physical attacks from the enemy, world, and etc. If I am clinging on to what I had yesterday, it is not enough. That's why even King David said, I want to seek and gaze upon you all the days. In the morning, praises come from my lips. In the evening, praises come from my lips. For a very specific reason.
Yeah. Deuteronomy 32:43. Rejoice, O nations, his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants and render vengeance to his adversaries. He will provide atonement for his land and his people. Revelation 1:3 says, Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written in, for the time is near. And to finish off, 1 Kings chapter 8, 56 through 60. Blessed be Yahweh, who has given rest to his people Israel according to all that he's promised. There has not failed one word of all his good promise, which he promised through his servant Moses. May Yahweh our Elohim be with us as he was with our fathers. May he not leave us nor forsake us, that he may incline our hearts to himself, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, and his statutes, and his judgments, which he commanded our forefathers. And may these words of mine, with which I have made supplication before Yahweh, be near Yahweh our Elohim day and night, that he may maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Israel, as each day may require. Verse 60, that all the peoples of earth may know that Yahweh is Elohim, there is no other. Let your hearts therefore be loyal to Yahweh our Elohim, to walk in his statutes and keep his commandments as it is, as at this day. So, so there's a lot of negative in this Torah portion. A lot of the stuff that the pre-trib rapture people don't want to know about. They don't want to hear. They don't want to hear it. It's like, well, that's for them that never gave their hearts to Yeshua, because we're out of here.
Yeah.
And yet And yet this is what Moses is telling that will befall the people. And it's not the Jewish people at the end of the age. Because, yeah, those poor Jews, they go through it. They went through the Holocaust. They're going to have to go through this whole nother thing. That's their attitude because they've misapplied Scripture. They've embraced Cyrus Darby's, John Darby and Cyrus Schofield's their dispensational beliefs system, and they just think those are them, that was then, this is now. They are them, and they're not us, and we're not them. That type of attitude, and it's very misleading. And we're better than them. Yeah. Really?
Really sad, though. They don't know their own identity. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be looking for everybody to join us at Sukkot this week. So I know everybody's going to be coming in ready to go with no problems, no issues tomorrow, right? Or sometime during the week, or joining us for the weekend, next weekend. However you're going to join us, it's going to be great. We will not have Torah portion here or service here next weekend. Okay, next Shabbat we will not be here. But come join us. If you're not coming to Sukkot, come and join us on Shabbat up there. Because we're
Be having it online.
No, we have no cell coverage up there. So, but you can come join us. We will have a Torah portion and other great things on Shabbat. We always have a good time and good food and good fellowship. And we also have campfire. So it's always good too. So any other comments or anything as we close?
Yeah.
Or questions or?
Torah, which was in Samuel, 2 Samuel 22.
Okay.
That's probably one of my favorite verses, chapter. I don't remember how long it is, but it just talks, David was talking about the deliverance of Yahweh and how he, first of all, he just extols God's greatness, which is wonderful, and then he talks about how he subdues his enemies, and that I just find that really encouraging, and looking at where things are at right now and what we know is coming, and I think it's just a wonderful selection for this
I'm glad you brought that up. How many do we see in the Psalms where David says about why so downcast, O my soul?
Yes.
Put your hope in Yah. And we sang a song. We used to sing a praise chorus with that. Put your hope in God. But so it kind of makes it fun, but it gets the word into you. And but yeah, it's pretty uplifting when you think about David went through a bunch of stuff. And he's not fighting back. He's not. Why didn't he take care of Saul when he had the opportunity? But he understood authority and position and his position, and the guy had all sorts of patience. The guy was a true shepherd. He knows how those rascally sheep are,
That's funny because I was literally just looking at a side note here. Others' progress is not for your pride and ego. God did not anoint King David for David's sake, but for God's own sake.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. That's a really good interpretation for what's going on for us in this day and this time. It's not about our comfort. It's about his purpose in our lives. And we're to fulfill his purposes. So that's huge. In other words, we've been brought into the divine plan, so we all have our role to play. So don't give up.
Killing that flesh.
That's right.
All right. Have a good couple of weeks.
Well, I tell you what, coffee tastes different.
Well, everybody, Shabbat Shalom that's been online. It's great to see you. And Bob, we'll see you here in the next day or so. Good to see you too. Shabbat Shalom.